Good morning, creators! Truly good morning. It is 1 a.m. here, and by the time I'm finished with this video, it will probably be like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., depending on whenever the servers finally come up. But huge news, we have custom weapons in the new update. And one of the issues with custom weapons is the save point device, which we use to save our loadouts, does not work with our custom weapons. So, I've developed a system that can save your weapons to verse persistence. So first of all, make sure in your project settings, in the beta section, you have scene graph system true and custom items and inventory set to true. Cool. Let's make our first custom weapon. So I made a scene graph folder. And inside of the scene graph folder, I have a custom weapons folder. We're going to create one. So select entity prefab and then search for template. And then you have 4 kinds of weapons to pick from. I'll start with an assault rifle. And I'm going to name this EP, EP standing for entity prefab. And then we'll name it custom AR. Cool. Double click this to open it up. And you'll see there's a default model here, and we have some settings on the side. Let me get that onto the screen. All right, so here is our assault rifle. You have a mesh component, which is this gun that you see here. One note they had, if you're making a custom mesh, is that the pivot point should be centered around the grip, because that's where the hand is going to go. So make sure when you model it with that in mind and put the pivot point there. But I'm just going to use the default mesh for now. This rarity component, this is going to tell you how rare it is. It has common through mythic and exotic. They just added the mythic and exotic rarities today, so that's a surprise to me. It used to just be up to legendary, but that's actually really, really nice. So I can make it exotic if I want. You can give it a name and descriptions. So I'll give it a name. We'll call it the Maestro AR. Description, run in gun like a Maestro. Icon component, you can give it a texture, so that's what it shows up in the inventory as. Item component, these are categories. So for example, it has a bunch of weapon stuff. Weapon range is probably a good category for it. You don't really need to worry about this, I don't think, because it's not set in the template, so it probably doesn't matter. And we have some other cool stuff. We have the pickup component, so that when the weapon is on the ground, these are the settings to pick them up. And then we have the trace weapon component, and these are all the settings for the weapon. Like damage, I'll set it to something small. Weapon shot, there's a fire rate. I want to bump this up. I think it has a max fire rate of 25. That's okay. You can reduce the reload time. You can make it instant reload. Probably not negative, yeah. So a lot of cool things. Weapon spread, weapon recoil. So you can make it recoil a lot or not at all. Weapon ammo and shot ammo cost, which is really cool. So you can set this to 0 if you want to have infinite capacity and never have to reload. So this is very neat. All right, there's my custom weapon. Now we're going to add some code to our project. So on the left here is all the code that you're going to add. I have all these linked below, so you just have to copy it. No coding in this tutorial. It's just a system that you can download. Do organize your folders how I organize them. So you're going to need a scene graph folder. And inside of the scene graph folder, you're going to need an itemization folder. So one of the files, first file is the scene graph utils file. It just has 2 util files that I use in my itemization stuff. So download that and put it inside of the scene graph folder, just the top level scene graph right here. And then we have our itemization utils. This goes inside of our itemization folder. You can copy this as is, very simple. This does rely on the scene graph utils, so make sure you have both of those, and that should work. And I also have this persistable ID component. This is going to be what we use to identify our objects. Now, you're going to need some sort of persistence system. So for me, I have in my verse persistence folder, I have a file called save data. I will include this if you need save data. But the main thing here is that we have a persistable items variable in our save data, which is an array of ints. That secondary array is just the item ID and how many of that item there are. So that works. All this code works. If you want to learn more about persistence, about verse persistence, I have a course link below. It's completely free. It's been out for a while and it still works today. So go check that out. And I also created a modules folder. When you have verse code that's in multiple levels or multiple layers of folders, you need to have a modules file like right in this top level, your content folder. That way you can access these other folders, these deep folders in verse code. Without these, you'll get errors that you can't access an internal module. So just make sure you have these. It should look something like this. I'll include this below as well, so you can download that if you don't have it. But make sure that you put these files exactly where I put them. You'll notice these little indentations. If I just collapse and expand, you'll see what's inside of here. So you'll see that this is inside of scene graph. Itemization is inside of scene graph as well, with these inside of itemization. Modules is in the content folder, so at the very top. And then verse, I have my persistence folder with the save data. And I have this device that I'm going to use to load and save our stuff. So this is also included below. Put this in your verse folder. And then the last thing we need to do is look at our itemization persistable ID component. This is where we're going to have to write some changes to the code if you have a different layout than mine. So first of all, we have this path, which is verse persistence. This is where my save data is. This is where all my save data functions are. So this is what I use to get those. And I need modules so that it can actually get these without that internal module access error. This is the component, and all it is literally just an integer. It is an integer saying what item ID it is. Now you got to make sure that every weapon you give has a unique ID. We will get to that. I have some functions here. So for loading persistable items and saving and then loading. And so really all you need to change is wherever I write change. And so this says this should be your get save data function. If you have a different name for your function, if it's written differently, you can change this line right here. But that's how it is in my save data. It's just player.getSaveData, which works for me. And then we have set save data. It creates a new save data class. Of course, if your class is not called save data, you can change it to whatever you want. Different name. Persistable items is the name of the variable within save data. Once again going back and saying that save data is here. Persistable items is the name that we've given this. If you're confused about this stuff, go back to my verse persistence series. That will be helpful. Load persistable items is going to load those items into your inventory using these itemization utils I've given you. So it's going to get save data again. Make sure your get save data function is transact, so it can be used inside of a for loop. So it goes through all the persistable items, gets the item ID, then the item count, and then it adds them to the inventory. Lastly, the most important thing is this get item type. It's going to take the ID that you've assigned your weapons and map it to the actual weapon reference. So for example, I have these options here. We have 6.7 is paired with EPAR. These are commented out, so they're not doing anything right now. So I'm going to backspace. And we're going to do this for mine. So I'm going to build verse code. Make sure that you build verse code after you've created your weapons so that they actually show up. And then I can go into my assets.digest.verse to find this. And so I'll just search for EP custom AR right here. And so we'll use EP custom AR. And this is inside custom weapons inside of scene graph. Okay. So I might need to add this to my modules. Let's just go ahead and do that just in case. Custom weapons, public module, like so. Okay. So now I can map it here. So if I gave my custom weapon ID, let's say it's 42, we'll map it to EP. We'll map it to scene graph dot custom weapons dot EP custom AR, like so. You don't need the curly brackets, that will give you an error, so leave the curly brackets out. This is just getting the type, which is what it is. And so we know that 42 maps to this. Otherwise, it will give you a print statement saying that that item ID was not recognized. And by the way, this function will give you an error if you try to type 42 twice. So it will recognize if you're using that ID already. Okay. So now we need to set this inside of our custom weapon. So let's go in here. Let's get our custom AR. Add that component and search for persistable ID component. Add it here. And then give it the same item ID that we just gave in our code. So 42. You got to make sure that these two IDs match up. And once you publish, do not change these IDs, or else the player will have a different weapon or no weapon. So if you ever do change these IDs in either the code or in this persistable ID component, it's going to be bad news for your players because they will lose that data. So you got to be very careful. But as long as you don't touch that, you should be good. And then you can just drag and drop it out into your level. And you can pick this up once you launch. Once again, I'm still waiting on the Fortnite servers to go live, so, you know, that's great. But let's go ahead and place down our device. So in verse, we have this item persistence device. And then we have two channels. One is for saving data and one is for loading data. Note that this is designed to work alongside with the save point device. So I'm going to drop that out here. So if you have a normal Fortnite weapon or Fortnite items, the save point device will load those items. But this is going to load the persistable items, the custom items that you make. So we're going to need some channels here. We'll do a channel device. All right, this is going to be channel for loading. And this will be the channel for saving. Save. Go ahead and connect these. And I'm going to connect these to a button because I'm feeling like a button. All right. I'll add text here. So for load data. And then one for save data. So we'll transmit when receiving from save. Oh, from the button. Let me rename buttons as well. Button, save, and button load. Cool. So transmit when we receive from the load button. And then transmit when we receive from the save button. Cool. Since custom items are not compatible with item spawners and item granters, I did make a custom item granter component that lets me add items to the player's inventory. If you're interested in this, let me know. I might add it in a future tutorial. But it's really nice because you can just add these classes. You can tell how many you want to add. And you can add Fortnite items as well. So like gold. I want to add gold to my inventory. Now these weapons are an experimental, and one issue I did notice is the save point device does actually save them, but it saves them as the template, so it will be just like the gray assault rifle, for example. And whenever I hold it, it's just an invisible mesh. So that must be a bug. I'm going to report it. For now, I'm going to delete the save point device because I don't want to see that. All right, first custom item. Let's go. I'm going to use my item granter. Oh, cool. This works. All right, let's see what happens. Oh my goodness. This thing is insane. What the heck? Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, custom weapons are going to go absolutely insane in UEFN this next month. I can't wait to see these maps. Anyways, we have our 2 weapons here. I'm going to save and then end the game. And then I'm going to load when I spawn in. Boom. It loaded them. Great. So that's it. That's it for this tutorial. This is so insane. Man. Okay, well, thankfully I didn't have to stay up too late. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe, and follow along for more. If you're interested in verse persistence, that course is linked below. And next week, I'm going to be launching the Verse Maestro series. If you're a beginner and you want to learn about Verse, that series is built for you. I hope to see you there. But for now, thanks for watching and good luck creating.